Debbie. Ben, let's come to you then. And everybody's favourite politician, Tony Blair.
Isn't he just? Yes. So we've talked a lot over the past few weeks about the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change and what they've been up to in the UK and what they have planned for the UK. But I think it's useful to look at what they're doing internationally because they're active pretty much everywhere. And I'm going to start by looking at the Asia Pacific region, Indonesia. And this all comes from an update from their Asia Pacific leader that I came across a couple of days ago. So in Indonesia, they've been working on the Nusantara New Capital Authority project. So they're actually building a new city to replace Jakarta as the capital city of Indonesia. This is all about unlocking the power of technology. So it's going to be a smart city with all the kind of low carbon surveillance technology that we've come to expect from these kinds of initiatives. There's a $35 billion budget, a real gravy train for contractors. I'm sure Blair is going to be wetting his beak there in an obscene fashion, as he normally is. And interestingly, government is going to be the first section to be built. Sounds a little bit like Canberra in Australia, a new capital, which is built around the needs of politicians. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? In India, they've been setting a visionary strategy for future-proofing economic success for the state of Odisha. They've been defining a growth trajectory, setting GDP targets, and increasing focus on innovative sectors. So again, this is all about perpetuating this new technological paradigm that they want everyone to buy into around climate, food, energy, and elsewhere. In Vietnam, they have been excited to formalize their partnership with the Communist government's Ministry of Planning and Investment. So this is all about attracting high quality foreign direct investment, which is basically asset stripping. That's a really important point to land on there, actually. We hear a lot about foreign direct investment, foreign investment. Sunak talks about it in the context of the UK. That's basically asset stripping. That's flogging off our national assets to international investors. In the Philippines, they were very excited to work with the government to help them prepare for COP28. And they actually gave them a platform, a Blair Institute run panel at COP, which is about applying tech in times of crisis. Yeah, the manufactured crisis that Tony Blair's had quite a serious hand in developing. The Philippines, as you're probably aware, is also run by a fairly dictatorial figure. I think this is why Tony likes going around to these countries. You can just go talk to the top guy and get things done. And they've got big growth ambitions for the region in 2024. They're also really, really active in Africa. We've talked a lot about Africa and the former Commonwealth nations, the former colonies, not just the British colonies, but the French, the Portuguese, other people that were down there, being essentially a proving ground, a testing ground for a lot of the new initiatives that they're rolling out. One of these things has manifested through a partnership with C40 cities, which I think was particularly interesting. We've talked a lot about C40. It's the group of 100 mayors from around the world that are united in action to confront the climate crisis, and it's co-chaired by Sadiq Khan, London mayor, and Yvonne Aki-Sawyerr, who's the mayor of Freetown in Sierra Leone. And I came across this post a few days ago, which talks about Mrs. Aki-Sawyerr or Miss Aki-Sawyerr and the Freetown, the Tree Town initiative that was funded by the Bloomberg Philanthropies Global Mayor's Challenge. It was won a couple of years ago. They planted nearly 1 million trees, actually. It's quite a commendable initiative. But what I don't understand really with any of this stuff is why it requires international billionaires and really, frankly, war criminals like Tony Blair to come along and enable it. Can they not just do this stuff off their own back, like with local investment? It seems that would make a lot more sense. Now, the person who shared this post, she's particularly excited. Some really interesting language here, right? So seeing how Freetown's natural capital investment strategy is rolled out and how we build and finance equitable, sustainable pathways to locally led climate adaptation in Freetown. Hashtag climate change solutions, hashtag climate finance, hashtag climate change action. The language around this stuff is so turgid and bureaucratic, but unfortunately, this is how these people speak. What else have we got in Africa? So, as I said, they've been very active. They're on the ground in a number of different places: Ghana, Malawi, Senegal. They've been doing lots of work around the health system, introducing vaccine passports, digital ID systems. There's a whole page on the Tony Blair Institute website with some very interesting, well-produced videos about what they've been up to. And as I say, I see this essentially as a laboratory for what they're looking to roll out across the health system in the UK and other developed nations. And they've also worked on an exciting project to educate school children in Rwanda. And Tony's going to tell you a bit about that now.
Everyone knows today that if you can't get on the internet, you can't get opportunity, you can't get advancement, you can't get progress. So this is going to enable us to do something absolutely revolutionary for the developing parts of the world. This is the first step. There's many more along the way, but it's an amazing innovation that has brought the internet right into the classroom here in the middle of Rwanda.
So 4 things from that video. First thing, is Tony making funny hand signs again? Is this the 666 sign? It's not a natural hand sign to make, and he delivers it in quite an awkward way. Have a look back at the video and see what you think of it. The second thing is this organisation, the Tomorrow Partnership, that flashed up at the end there. Now, it's presented as a separate entity to the Blair Institute, right? So it has its own website, thetomorrowpartnership.com, but it appears to be a strategic partnership between Tony Blair Institute and Oracle, the US technology company. And it says here, you can see that they're about helping governments to digitize traditionally paper-based systems. And they do that especially in healthcare. Oracle was founded and is still run by Larry Ellison, who's currently the world's 4th richest man. And he actually flies under the radar a little bit in terms of his profile compared to the likes of Bill Gates or Elon Musk, right? He's right up there in terms of his wealth and his influence, but he's a little bit lesser known. But he's very active, as I say, in the health system in Africa, clearly working with the Blair Institute, but also here in the UK, because just last year he invested 22 billion. In fact, no, he didn't invest 22 billion. He actually bought Cerner for 22 billion, which is used to run huge chunks of secondary care. Basically, the hospitals in the NHS run largely using Cerner technology. Larry Ellison bought it. Blair's been working very closely with him. He helped him set up the Ellison Institute at Oxford University. As thanks for this, Ellison gave Blair the thick end of £100 million for his own institute. These two are thick of thieves. Got to keep an eye on them. The third thing about the video, that entire system that we just looked at, that school system with all the kids sitting around on their laptops in the classroom, that whole thing is dependent on that little satellite dish thing on the top of the roof at the school, which you can see at the start of the video. Now, that, it wasn't actually referenced in the film. It was in the announcement that the film came from. It was referenced in the post. That is Starlink. Now, that's the high-speed internet system available almost anywhere on Earth that is founded and run by Elon Musk. And this appears to be some kind of formal relationship between Musk and the Tony Blair Institute, right? So I think the important thing to land on here, beyond the work that Blair's doing across Asia and Africa, is that global governance, as embodied by Tony Blair, runs on the rails that are laid down by global billionaires. They have a very mutually dependent, symbiotic relationship with each other. Davos shows us that. We'll talk about that later. And this is how that manifests out there in the field. And then the fourth and final thing, they're after your kids. Yeah, you don't want Tony Blair in your classroom.
Okay, thank you, Ben.